Hello everyone, this is Lau with Kenshan Crafts and welcome back to my channel. So today I am just going to be ranking my pens back from December 2023 of which ones I liked the best. So ink and pen pairing. So I'm going to be doing this a little different from how I usually have done them, where I graded them from 1 to 10 for like flow of the pairing, if I liked the ink color and the comfort of the pen. So I feel like I have refined my collection to where the pens are mostly comfortable for me. So I will still talk about how comfortable the pen is. So what I will be doing, and I think that my last video of the top 10 pens, you guys seem to like that a lot. And I wanted to do something where you guys would really enjoy and be interactive with it. So of these 12 pens that I had inked up in December, I will be ranking them from 1 to 12, 12 being my least favorite, 1 being my favorite. So let's get started. I have here the list back from December of all the colors, and then all the pens I just put randomly in here, and just to fit in the camera I will have these pens kind of off to the side. The way I will be judging and grading which one is my favorite to the least favorite is mainly based on how often I picked it up. I think a very important part of currently inked and just like inking up your pens in general is that you have to like the ink color. If the ink color doesn't really vibe with you, then you're not going to want to pick that pen up as much. And then a second thing is, for me, and I think for a lot of you guys too, is the aesthetic and the look of the pen. If the pen is beautiful and you love it, then you're going to want to pick it up more too. And so really the perfect pen and ink pairing will be like the top 3 that I use all the time, and I feel happy picking it up, and I pick it up a lot. Let me know how you guys would rank your pens and what your criteria are. So at number 12, you Pelican M1000 lovers, I apologize. It's nothing against the pen. I just think that this pen is way too wet for my journaling. It also is much too thick. So I have this in an extra fine, and I don't dislike the broadness of this extra fine. Like, it's almost like a Western medium, which I sometimes will like writing with, but it's just so darn wet, and like I write fast, so like I want things to dry a little bit faster than normal. Even though like I love wet inks, and because I do like wet inks, I pair them with pens that I know are a little drier. I have not found really an ink that is quick drying in this Pelican, and that's probably almost impossible just because of the way this pen is made. It's meant to be super wet and write super broadly, so it's not great for everyday writing. That means that Pelican M1000 is in 12th place. So I will still be grading and giving numbers. Comfort here. Rank, comfort, the flow. Yeah, so I'm just going to be discussing the comfort of the pen when I write with it and the flow of the ink, because every single pen and ink pairing, their flow is different. And then the rank will obviously encompass my enjoyment of color, ink, and pen. All right, so the flow of this is definitely a 10. I'm just going to say 10 is like a super gushing fire hose. All right, and it takes a while to dry, but this ink is slightly on the drier side, but regardless, it's still very wet. The comfort of this pen, I'm going to give it an 8 because it's slightly heavier. And you see how wet that is? Yeah. Okay, so comfort an 8. Because the M1000 will eventually be kind of heavy, and for long periods of writing, it's not the best for that. Now, I believe also the reason I put the ranking at 12 is, aside from it being very wet and a little bit broader than I like, it's also just a black pen. And I expected that much anyway, so none of the reasons why I ranked it 12 makes this pen bad. It's just personal preference. So once I have this in a once I have Rodden work on here, maybe Makie as well, and I might not grind this down a little bit because I want it to be as it is. So we'll see. If I end up feeling like it's still too broad for everyday writing, then I might grind it down. Otherwise, if I do have it, if I turn this into a piece of artwork, then I might only want to use it for like special occasions and flourishes, which is fine too. All right, at number 11 is my Opus 88, the Blue Sapphire. And it's at number 11 because I don't really like the ink. This ink is too dark for me. It is not very like pretty, and like the sparkle isn't strong enough to make this ink pop out for me. And it's a very dark navy blue with some purple undertones. And so if you like a dark ink where you can read legibly, this is perfectly fine for that. The shimmer is not too prominent, so I'm putting this at 11th place because I didn't pick it up as much. And I also believe that it's this blue color is probably not my favorite, though this resin is just absolutely beautiful. I'm just really sad that I think the ink pairing was not the perfect pairing to make me reach for this pen as much. So the ink was Crystal Blue Legacy from Ferris Wheel Press. It's not a dry ink out of this pen, but I think it's supposed to be a pretty dry flow. So in terms of flow, actually, from this pen, I'm going to give it an 8. Yeah. It's not a gusher, but it's pretty wet. The comfort of this pen is very comfortable. It's not overly long or short, so this is a very nice comfort. I would give this one 8.5 for comfort. Let me know down in the comments if you guys have Opus 88 demonstrators and how you guys like it. This is my very first one, and I feel like I need to give this a little bit more time to see if I love writing with this one or if I want to sell it. All right. At number 10 is my Benu Euphoria Sunday by the Pool by Eric Gama. I love the color of this pen, but I think that the nib writes too broadly. Again, that's just personal preference. There's nothing wrong with it writing a broad line. It is a medium nib, and so it writes pretty thick. This ink is beautiful, though. It's absolutely beautiful. But again, sometimes it writes a little darker when it's dry, but most of the time it's a really pretty teal. So I'm putting my Benu at number 10. You can see it's also pretty broad right there. It's the same, almost the same line width as the Opus 88. In terms of comfort, this pen is quite comfortable to write with. It fits comfortably in my grip here, and it's a light pen that I can write with for long periods of time. I'm going to give this also an 8.5 for comfort. And the flow of this ink is an 8 as well. It flows about the same as the Opus 88. So just going over my flow chart. For me, a 5 is a moderate, like an average flow where it will dry pretty quickly. I think for me, the wetness scale where I liked my pens to be are between a 4 and 6. So somewhere around there, obviously. It's right in the middle. It's not too wet and not too dry. All right. So the next pen at number 9 is my Pilot Vanishing Point 60th Anniversary Kanreiki. And this pen is gorgeous to look at. It writes amazingly. I loved writing with this. Now, none of these pens are in these, actually these top 10 are my favorite of all 12 of these pens. And so it's really hard for me to have ranked these top 10, but it's going to kind of fall down to the ink, because all these pens, I loved looking at them and loved picking them up for their aesthetics. So this one I had Conan Maroon, and sometimes I feel like the vanishing points, and I'm not sure, but they do dry up a little bit. My vanishing points, the ink colors got a little darker, so they did the ink did evaporate a little bit, where some days I didn't write for, sometimes I didn't write for a couple of days and it showed up darker than normal, and it also showed up with more sheen. This one especially, this vanishing point showed sheen very well. So if you love sheen, vanishing points, well, even a fine nib is going to show sheen. So this one is 9th place. This is, okay, it's so smooth and a thin nib that it's going to glide seamlessly in the on your paper. And if you like writing like that, the vanishing point fines are perfect for that. So in terms of comfort, I just love the comfort of these vanishing points. They are nice, but sometimes I can't write too long with them because of the specific, like this clip does kind of get in the way of like a very long-term comfort. So I'm going to give the comfort of the vanishing point an 8. Okay, but otherwise I love writing with, like, it feels, well, it feels better than my Pelican, so I'm going to give it 8.5. The flow of this ink, Kobe inks are wet, and Pilot fine nibs are also wet, but it's a fine nib, so it's not going to give you a lot of ink. So it's not a gusher. I am rating the flow of this ink a 5. Yeah, it's very tamed, and I had no issues with it like taking too long to dry. So this one is in 9th place, and probably because this color is too dark for my liking, but it's a lovely ink. It's always like, it's a great, beautiful ink, but then something about your personal taste just like says differently, even though it is a lovely ink. Okay. At number 8 is my, I'm so sad to say this, but as much as I love the look of this pen, the nib is a little broader than I want it to be. Plus the color was, it was not great. This ink is a little dry, so it will shade, and it also drags along the paper a little bit. I think I would like to grind it down to medium fine because I enjoyed writing with my medium fines Sailor more than this one this month. So I have this one at 8th place. Okay, the ink flow, I will give this one about a 3.5. Right, it's a little bit on the dry side, but it flows just fine. It's not completely dry. Like a completely dry would be 0, 1, and 2. So I'm giving this a 3.5. For the comfort of this pen, 9.5. I love my Sailor Pro Gears. They just feel so good in my hand. I can write with them for long periods of time. Yeah, and the main thing about this ink is it is a little light. On some papers it shows up very light, and then in other papers it's kind of legible. So I think that's why I put it in 8th, because the ink color and flow is a little bit light. All right, at 7th place is my Pilot Vanishing Point 30th anniversary. This is the ink is Kobe Futata Bisan Park Green. That green is a lovely, lovely ink, and I think that the ink kind of, again, like I said, it dried up a little bit sooner than I expected it to dry up. And so you can see here, this ink is very dark compared to how I like it to be. This is a lovely, lush green. It's almost like a forest, somewhere between a forest green and grass green. So it's beautiful, but it dries on me, and I'm just like, why? It's supposed to be. So vanishing points, like, you're going to need to write with your vanishing points at least every other day, or like once or twice a week, really. And I think there are times where I didn't pull it out, and so this is where the drying comes in. So that might just be just a personal thing. Like, having too many pens inked up will cause this user error where I don't pick it up enough and it's going to dry up. But also, like, pens should not dry up on you anyways if they're really, really good. So something is going on here, and I need to figure out why, because I'm expecting that my pilots should not have dried ink for at least 2 to 3 weeks. My platinums and sailors, they don't dry up, and it takes, and sometimes I don't use them for a week at a time anyways. So this ink has dried up, and I have the pen closed all the time, so it's not completely airtight from what I am seeing here in terms of like how long it will be airtight for. And so the comfort of this pen again is an 8.5, like my other vanishing point. The flow of this ink is a 5. I'm gonna give it a 6. It's a little bit wetter than Kona Maroon, only because it's a medium nib, so it comes out a little bit wetter. Okay. And then at number 6 is my Sailor Pro Gear Sanctuary Blue. And it is at number 6 because I feel like this ink color is too light. I love the ink color, I really do. It comes out like this soft blue, like this really light baby blue or Tiffany blue, and then it dries into this bright seafoam green. And on some papers, it's really light, and I think, or like, I don't know, like to me, I like the Kobe Futata Bisan Park Greens saturation more than Montblanc turquoise saturation. So I think it's the saturation of this. However, it was better because this ink did not dry up, and I think I'd enjoy this nib more too. So that's what makes it better in the ranking than my Pilot Vanishing Point. The comfort, a 9.5. Absolutely love it. The flow of this ink is about a 5. I'm giving it a 5 because it's not wet, it's not dry, but it is a dry ink. But yeah, otherwise I love this nib. This journaler nib is really, really fun to write with. I think that I would just enjoy the journaler nib experience with a darker ink that isn't so light to begin with. All right, and number 5 is my Visconti Homo Sapiens Crystal Dream. This ink is a beautiful, perfect ink because it is a Visconti ink. Here at number 5, I just love the width of this fine Visconti 18 karat gold nib. It is very, very accurate of a Western fine. It's pretty fine actually. Like I think some Western fines are just very broad, and I think most people would say that a Western fine is broad to begin with. Like it's quite broad in general. This one is a little bit thinner than what most Western fines are, which is very surprising because Visconti is supposed to be pretty thick in general in terms of their line width. But I am glad that the Visconti fine is what I think a Western fine is. Now, it's not the same as a Japanese fine. It's a little thicker. But if you look and compare the Pilot Vanishing Point fine to the Visconti fine, it looks like they're the same. So that also could just mean that my Pilot Vanishing Point was using Kona Maroon is a Kobe ink, which is a wet ink. And so, not sure exactly why these lines are the same, but I believe that the Visconti Homo Sapiens, their new 18 karat gold nibs are a little bit thinner than their previous nibs, which I love. I am totally for it. Okay, so the comfort of this pen is amazing. I'm giving it a 9.5. And the flow of this ink is not gushing at all. So I'm giving this a 4. I think sometimes I might have to like open this chamber as well, which might be what I need to do to increase the flow of the ink, but I haven't really done that, and over time it did get a little bit wetter. Here, when I first did it, this is what I would rate rate like a 2 or 3. It's very dry, but it writes smoothly. It doesn't drag on the paper, so I would not give this anything lower than a 3. But I think that the ink flow is so well controlled. I'm going to give it a 4. And again, like I said, between a 4 and a 6 is what I like. So it's not a gushing pairing by any means. So again, the pairing was Visconti Homo Sapiens Crystal Dream, fine nib with Visconti green ink. Okay, sitting at 4th place. Now it gets a little bit closer. All right, at 4th place is, let's see, 4th place is my Leonardo Momento Zero Fioritura Viola. This is artificial lighting that I have, and the Fioritura Viola does not look very appealing in this lighting, but it's still a gorgeous purple. Now in natural lighting, this pen really shines, so I will try to get natural lighting of this pen when I do my currently inked. 4th place. So I put this in 4th place. These last 4 are like they could all be runner-ups for number 1, really. So there's nothing bad I can say about this pen. I loved the color. It was bright and beautiful. The shimmer are gold, and I think they are duochrome to like a rose gold too. I'm not sure what the other tone is, but I'm seeing gold, and the comfort of this pen is a 9.5. I love my Leonardo Momento Zeros. They are perfect for me. I don't really cap them sometimes, but even if I cap them, these are still very comfortable. So 9.5. The flow of this ink, this one gives a 7. It's very wet. I love that my Leonardo Momento Zero elastic fine nib writes on the wet side, because this ink is supposed to be a little dry. It's a shimmer ink, and most shimmer inks are dry, or at least a little bit dry. And I have not felt any drag with this ink. It's a beautiful, perfect pairing. So love, love, love this pen so much. So yeah, just great. The flow is a little wetter, which is fine, and I love that. Okay. Sitting at number 3 is my Sailor Proger Winter Rain. Now, even though I like my Progers more, the ink pairing from this one was perfect. I thought it was really beautiful and perfect. Like, it's a soft lavender pink body, and I had it inked up with this bright, gorgeous, it's supposed to be burgundy. That's the name of this ink, but I feel like it's more of a dusty pink brown, and that's why I love it. That's why I think that's why I love it so much. And it's very saturated, coming from this really thin medium fine nib. Now the only problem with this ink was that it kind of like pulled out of the nib like that, which is really strange. So I'm not sure if it's the ink or if it's my pen. None of my other Sailor pens did this, and so it might be the Enderilium ink, because this is my first time using Enderilium ink. But it's a lovely, lovely pen. I like the 21 karat gold nibs on Sailors. They just write so smoothly, and because of this medium fine, I was able to write in my weeks to track my health information every day, and so I just love this ink so much, and this medium fine nib was just a joy to write with. I like the width of medium fine Sailors. The 21 karat. The 14 karats are a little too thin, like just a hair thinner than the 21 karat. Oh, and I did not write the numbers on there, mainly because I wrote the pen dry, and even though there's ink on the nib, it's not writing. So I'm just going to be using my other pens here. So the Sailor Pro Gear Slim Winter Rain Medium Fine with Enderilium Pompadour Contiga Burgundy was so beautiful. It gets 3rd place. And the comfort is about an 8, because I don't really like the comforts of the Slims as much, but it's not terrible. The flow of that was a 4. It was so well controlled, and when you have to write small in very, very small squares, you need a very controlled flow. And so, but it wasn't dry by any means at all. It was so smooth. So I would say that Andorilium Contiga Burgundy is probably an average flowing ink. Sailor Progress Slim 21 karat nibs are a bit on the like average to dry writing side because they're thinner, but it's a 21 karat gold nib, so it's gold nibs tend to write a little wetter in general. So I think that mix really made this ink pairing so good for me. I just like for its purpose, it was very good. If it was very, very wet, I wouldn't be able to write so well in my Hobonichi weeks. So for that reason, I used it a lot, and the ink is dry now, or like I used it all up, so that made its way into third place. All right, second place is my Kilk Celestial. It's such a beautiful, beautiful pen. I loved looking at it and loved picking it up, and just I think that this ink pairing was just so good. I love a periwinkle because this is a little bit more bluer than I want it to be. But I think periwinkles are somewhere between blue and purple, and I'm not sure which one it leans more. Maybe it leans more towards blue, but if I could find a more purple periwinkle, then I would be absolutely happy. But this periwinkle is still so gorgeous. It has, I think, rose gold shimmers in it, and the shimmers just show up so beautifully. Whenever I tilt my paper, I can see that shimmer, and it makes me so happy. So, and then just look at that pen. Like, the silver shimmers coming off of this pen is also like, it's just like, it begs to have a shimmer ink in there. So that you see shimmer in the pen, you see shimmer in the ink. This was a happy pen to write with, and it fits so comfortably in my hand unposted. It does post too, which I'm really shocked because it's a really long pen, but it's comfy. It doesn't feel heavy, even though like this pen is supposed to be 34 grams. They say it's 34 grams, but I think it's a little lighter than that. And the vanishing point is 29 grams. So to me, this one still feels lighter even when posted. So unposted is the perfect comfy feeling to me. So my Kilk Celestial with Dominant Industries Periwinkle Twinkle is second place. And lovely ink, lovely medium nib with a great flow. And I say that medium nibs are too broad for me, but for some reason this one just makes me happy. I think it's the pairing. It's definitely the pairing. And I also know that Periwinkle Twinkle is a very dry ink. It's a dry shimmer ink. And the first time I used it a long time ago, I hated it. I hated it. But I like it now in this pen. So the comfort of this pen is definitely a 10. I just, no issues with writing with this pen. The flow of this, I'm going to give it a 6. Because it's not terribly wet, but it's also not like super well controlled compared to like my Sailor Pro Gear and Andorilium ink up there. So giving this flow a 6, which is perfect. It's a perfect flow. Okay, well this last one is not really, it's a no-brainer. My Aurora 88 Volterra, and that is number 1. Who would have thought? I pick this up every single day. Well, not every single day, but more often than the rest. And when I didn't write with it for some time, I missed it so much. And then when I picked it up, the ink color was still as it should be. I'm surprised because people said that Auroras dry out on you, but my Aurora has not dried out. And which is funny because the inside of the cap, I don't know if you can, my lighting shows it really well, but there is no inner cap. So I'm really shocked at how this nib stays wet. I think there is a tiny, tiny inner cap inside the cap here, but it's not like a sailor's inner cap where it's plastic and you can see it clearly. So something's going on here. It might be the ink as well, but the ink has not dried on me. The color has not changed at all, and that's what I love about pens. I want pens to be able to hold ink for like 1 to 2 weeks at a time if it comes to that, and the ink still retains its properties. It still is that gorgeous color that I liked at the beginning. And so the Aurora has done that for me. Some of my Leonardos have held the inks and they dried, and then they became this really dark color with a lot of sheen, and I'm just like, I don't like that. And so I don't think Colorverse sheens anyways. It's an orange ink, and I have not really seen orange inks sheen. And so I think the ink pairing was perfect. The pen is beautiful, and it's just perfect as well. So, I might need a full bottle of Colorverse Alpha Toros. They only sell it in the 65 milliliter bottle though, so that's a lot of ink to go through. However, I think that because I love this ink so much, I guess it's fine. I do want to try Montblanc Red Fox in here next because I love that ink as well, but I think that I like this Colorverse Alpha Taurus more because it is a little darker. It's more towards, it leans a little more brown, and Montblanc's Red Fox has more red in it. So I do want a more neutral ink in here, and Red Fox does lean a bit more red than I wanted to. So something like a brown orange, brown yellow, even like a dusty brown pink would be what I would pair with this Volterra pen. And I don't know, this one is already perfect, so I don't know if I would like any other ink in here as much as this, but that's what I do want to do. I want to explore inks. I don't want to just like keep a pen with an ink that I love just because I love that pairing so much, but the part of me that wants to explore inks is a little bit stronger than keeping the same ink in a pen for forever. So this one will, I mean, I'm gonna write with Colorverse Alpha Taurus for a while. It's a piston filler, so I still have a lot of ink in there, but I might change this sometime just to explore other inks and see how they pair together. Just so that I know and I have tried all options before I can just say, okay, I'm gonna ink you up with only this ink because it's perfect for you. So I think my pens can, go through the experimental phases with me just fine, and I do want to do that with my Aurora because I love it so much. I want it to experience the rainbow of colors that will go well with it. So yes, number one. Again, it was no surprise. So that is that. Thank you so much for joining me in my ranking and discussing how I, felt about my pens in December, my currently inked pens. And I hope that was helpful for you guys just to kind of understand that different ink and pen pairings can lead to different feelings of how we experience our pens. So just because I loved my Sailor pens so much and they're beautiful, they did not make it as high as I wanted them to. And so the ink does play a huge role in your joy and enjoyment of your pens. So just because you didn't enjoy the pen because of the ink doesn't mean that you can't try again with a different ink. So definitely be open to trying new inks and not giving up on your pens. As I said earlier, I'm not going to give up on my Opus 88 just quite yet, and I obviously am not going to be selling my Pelikan M1000. I have a reason for it. I just had to try it just to know why. Just to confirm why I wouldn't pick it up as much, and I have confirmed that, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to sell it or that I don't like it at all. It's still going to serve its purpose in my collection. All right, thank you again so much. I hope you guys had fun and enjoyed that with me. If you had a good time here, please consider leaving a like, and that really helps out my channel a lot. And if you're not subscribed yet, do hit that subscribe button for more videos like this in the future. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye.